Hello there, wonderful humans. My name is Serj Hunt. I'm the founder of City as a School. Thank you to the other speakers for setting up such an awesome context for this next part of the discussion. I recently met John and Kevin in person in London, where we had a bunch of alignment on the future of education, what that looks like in the classroom. And so I prepared this talk for you from Indonesia. I'm normally based in London, about pedagogy for a world of rapid change and how the classroom can be a place to prepare us for the future. Many of the ideas in here are probably going to be already quite aligned with your current practice. But nevertheless, I'm going to try and fill this next 20 minutes with insights from our work that might challenge some of your assumptions about what the day-to-day will look like in the classroom. Let's get into it. I'm the founder of City as a School. We can get into what that is in a second. I'm also the co-founder of an AI company called Chip, which is the easiest way to build AI assistants. I'm also had a background in learning sciences and psychometric assessment. Previously done some work in EdTech and also AI alignment stuff, but guiding my wiggly career through all this work is three research questions. What is a human? What enables its flourishing? And how will I raise my future kids? So I'm going to try and cover a lot, and I'll say in one slide something which has often taken us about 6 months to come to the insight on. So we're going to set some context, just how we think about future readiness, a little bit about how that context has informed the design of City as a School. We're going to go into a little bit of theory about what's guiding this new practice and how we think about that. And then 3 clear examples about new ways that teachers or coaches will be interacting with AI and how that's going to shape classroom practice, what the day-to-day could actually look like. Try and make that really concrete. And I'm sure there will be lots of alignment. And I would love to have your comments in the comment section about how this is already like what you do or is different, and you've got questions about how to actually implement this if you'd like. So we all know that the one-size-fits-all funnel is not fit for purpose, and that universities can't adapt and are becoming irrelevant. And that's just basically because the world is changing so fast, right? And I go as far as to say that we're in an education crisis where the world is changing so quickly, and the global complexity and the challenges of the world are moving faster than the speed at which our schools and universities can build the capabilities in our young people. And so that set up this mission for us at City as a School, which is to create the infrastructure for a learner-centered education system that enables young people to flourish in a world of rapid change. So a little bit about City as a School. We serve these groups, these underserved by the one-size-fits-all model kids. These are minority groups, disengaged, at-risk learners, and also neurodivergent and gifted children. And when we interview these young people, we basically found out that 98% of them want to learn things that are relevant to their interests and career aspirations. And they think that they're wasting time on overly theoretic content. They stress out about cramming for exams, and they don't think that these exams will actually guarantee a successful future. And many of them are thinking of leaving school or just leaving. And now that's tricky because we know that so much of the data points to staying in school is a net good thing for a city, but they just don't want to be there. So that's who we're working with, really. And this has provided us with some amazing insights into the reasons why people leave, what happens as they transition out of normal education into homeschooling, and how homeschoolers are even trying to think about getting back into the system and recognize their learning they do in informal context. Our young people say things like, I want to meet friends with similar passions and interests. How do I build a portfolio of skills and access real-world opportunities? They say things like, I just want to make money and learn about stuff that I'm interested in. And how can I find inspiring mentors? And so we built the ability to launch learning ecosystems at the city level. And that's a really geeky way of saying that there are 2 parts to this. One is Airbnb for learning. So providing access to those opportunities outside of the normal blueprint of education. This means stringing together the museums, business hubs, libraries, makerspaces, co-working spaces into one simple interface that young people and their parents can access to find those opportunities. And the second part of this is, how do you make sense of all of those options, right? And so we've built AI GPS for learning in an app called Arc. And Arc is able to backward plan job descriptions and also scaffold learner projects to create these learning pathways based on any goal that they have. Here's some trends that we're betting on at City as a School. We really think that coaching in AI will start to overtake teaching, especially in the adolescent ages, sort of 16 plus, say. We also are betting on that portfolios are going to be unlocking opportunities for young people more and more, and that AI will do most digital work and humans will have to guide the what and care more about the why We're also betting on unused real estate turning into learning hubs, and that there are going to be new metrics that are going to be publicly funded. And this won't just be a private deal for those who can afford it. And then we're also betting on change coming from the bottom up with leverage and not top down. And we see this with the ubiquitous access of AI tools and new software for young people and teachers. And so these 4 starred ones are the ones we're going to be zooming in on this talk. Okay, great. I want to get into a little bit about the theory behind what's guiding this new change in practice, how this is going to be different to what we've been doing for the last couple hundred years. So education is essentially philosophy developmentalized. And I think at the core of this is a change in our perception of fundamental human nature. We have some assumptions of human nature that we're still in sort of a hangover from. And now teachers and pedagogues and school leaders are starting to use different terms. And we're starting to say different things about what humans are. And we need to arrive at these assumptions to be able to design new practice for those assumptions. You can think of the old paradigm maybe as saying something like, oh, humans are rational, utility maximizing agents, or minds are buckets to fill with knowledge. And if you're from a more religious context, you might say something like, crushing the will of the child is important so that they can be disciplined against original sin. And now I really think the crux of this paradigm shift is happening around this insight that humans are inherently creative beings, and that our mind bodies are tools for turning ideas into reality. And that if we want to do the work of Sir Ken Robinson and his talk and how that ignited the will of change in teachers, if we want to do that justice, I think this is the kind of new human assumption that we need. And so zooming into our uniqueness as humans, especially in an age of AI, right, is kind of important. I believe that this new assumption needs to sound something like humans are the kinds of beings that turn the world of ideas and symbols into reality. And we do this with immense leverage. And this is very different to how elephants turn their world of ideas into reality and how hummingbirds do it. This ability to turn ideas into reality, as small as thinking about making a cup of tea, to as big as building skyscrapers and infrastructure. This is what we do as humans, and we need to find a new practice for it. So guiding that with that same idea, tracking with that same idea, is this idea that each child has a unique idea to reality flow, that they go through 3 phases of generating ideas, making those ideas realistic, prototyping them, playing with it, molding it, and then making those ideas real and actually putting them as concrete deliverables and objects and artifacts that people can see. This is a fun little structure of different methods for generating ideas, making those ideas real and making them realistic between one mind and many minds. This is some work I did with a friend called Rome Fu. And in that flow, you can start to notice archetypes of how young people like to turn the world of ideas into reality. If you lean more into the side of generating ideas, you see here on the left, you become kind of an intellectual. You might become a philosopher or something similar. And then if you're spanning all 3, you kind of become an entrepreneur. And then there's people who are just really good at getting stuff done, taking some ideas and just executing on it. And these are like project managers and the more hands-on practical people. And so you can start to see these archetypes emerge in the idea to reality flow, which I find very interesting. Another part of the theory guiding all of this, and then we'll get into some concrete ways that practice will change, is the work of Learning Power by Ruth Crick and Guy Claxton. So these are mentors of mine, and Ruth Crick formed the learning sciences group that I am part of. We have the ability now to robustly assess agency. So through 50 questions, we can produce a spider diagram. This spider diagram can go into the middle of a coaching conversation between a student and a teacher, or a coach and a student. And then they can co-design strategies to improve their agency in a given context. A small depressed diagram would be a low agency person in a context, and a high spread out diagram would be that this learner knows what to do when they don't know what to do. They're able to navigate risk and uncertainty, which is really important to be able to thrive and flourish in this age of rapid change. What's also fun about this is that we can notice when there are tyrannical bosses and also bad classroom practice. We start to see like the whole cohort of employees or students being severely depressed in various areas, and they have a similar shape if there's a toxic culture. It's a very powerful tool. And so you could think of one other angle with all of this, right, is that there'll be new assessment that's necessary. It's because we want to reward and prop up and support this new culture, these new assumptions of human nature. And so outside of grades, we might have more ways of assessing practice in the classroom and around the classroom, such as vocational outcomes, learning outcomes, community, civic and participation outcomes, equity, well-being, and how well the providers, the teachers themselves are doing and what kind of opportunities they get. So with our partners, we've done some amazing work to try and design and outline this new practice. It's not just technological change that we're after at City as a School. We need to figure out what's happening in the classroom, and the rest of this talk will be about that. Okay, so example number one is turning the future into the present. Like, how can we turn what's coming at us into something that we can do in the classroom? So some work that I've been doing in the past has been in futures and foresight work, which is basically helping governments and large institutions figure out what technologies are coming up and how's that going to change the way that we do work, and what do we need to do to prepare. And so the tech detector is really a radar of technologies, and these technologies start from being conceptual all the way out on the edge and then all the way into a product in the center. And so you can see things that are very far on the outside, like anti-filter bubble algorithms, graphene cytobots, little robots that move across small areas, CO2 absorbing street lamps, artificial intelligent governors. These things are kind of far out in the research land, and then things that are in the center, like 3D slicer software, 5G mobile networks, RFID tags, are things that are already products in the market. And so as educators, we probably want to prepare our young people for being able to deal with these technologies at some point. So let's grab a technology. Let's grab something like these solar cells. Printable, lightweight, flexible, low-cost alternative solar cells. These sound really cool. Okay, and I can go to the application page and I can find out more information about this thing. And I'm going to grab all of this information and then feed it into our AI copilot called Arc. So meet Arc. Arc is our AI copilot. We believe every young person should have some kind of AI copilot to help them navigate the world. I'm going to select a command from Arc called the pathway generator and just paste in all of that copy from there, and Arc will get busy to work generating a learning pathway for me. So as you can see, I'm using the future and what's coming up to now backward plan some content, something that we can get our minds around to be able to make sense of that future. So what Arc's going out and doing is finding recommended classes. Unfortunately, we don't have any in the City as a School network related to solar cells, but it would do that. It's also going and gathering free resources about these solar cells. So here we are, some information about these types of solar cells so I can get started. And it's also now going to break down this technology into by first principles in module 1. So we need to understand concepts like crystal structure, thin film technology, material depth, and then it goes into more complex topics in module 5, like efficiency challenges, sustainability issues, durability concerns, those kinds of things. And so we can use this in a coaching conversation to say, like, what do you know lots of? What do you want to know more of? And if there is a teacher there, then they can build some content and curriculum around that. If there's not, then you can just open up an AI tutor conversation, which will pass the content of that module into a conversational type AI. And this will allow that young person to start speaking about, what are these concepts? What does this actually mean? So that's our first example of turning the future into something present. The second thing I want to share with you guys is turning the current state of the job and labor market into something that we could do right now. So right here, I'll pull up Arc again. I'll come back to the home screen. And let's say that I want to become a dentist. I can do two things here. I could either just go and get a job description. So here is a job description of a dentist in an orthodontics clinic, dentistry, and I could grab all of this information here. If I don't know which job I want yet, I can just use the find me a job task, which is right here, view job opportunities. And I can say, okay, great. Well, I want to be a dentist in London. Then Arc will go and find me different jobs in London so that I can become a dentist. And so already this is allowing young people to explore what's out there. And we're pulling down from various different data sources, and we can modify this for different countries. For example, we're working with a group called Migrants, which works with migrant workforce using the ESCO framework, which is the European Union's taxonomy of jobs and skills, and then using that to backward plan various jobs that their migrant workforce can validate their skills against and see if they're eligible for those jobs. So we can change the data source that we're backward planning. Here's Arc going out and finding me some jobs as a dentist. Because it's AI, we can just say like, oh, that sounds boring, like find me different jobs, and not have to burden a career advisor. So let's say we've got this job description here. Let's grab all of that from here. We want to paste this into and create a pathway. Again, we can do the same thing. This is just passing the job description into the pathway generator now. Very similar to backward planning the future. Okay, so Arc has produced the learning pathway for being a dentist, and I can start to build projects, speak to an AI tutor about this, or figure out exactly how I'm going to get from A to B with my teacher or coach. So the final example I want to share with you guys is now kind of changing the perspective from top down or future down to bottom up. I mean, after that, we're going to get into a little bit about how this is going to look like in an actual learning center, like the day-to-day. And so this final thing is called the build your own apprenticeship method. And we came to this after running lots of one-day pop-up. And the question that came out of that was, well, how do I actually build a portfolio? Like, how do I actually turn my ideas into reality? How do I actually build things that are of value and show this to employers? And so the big thing we notice is that educators are not very good at helping young people notice problems, identify problems. It's just kind of not a verbiage and a vernacular in which educators are trained in. Identifying problems is quite difficult. And so the build your own apprenticeship method really relies on that. So that's something that we've yet to solve deeply. But what is this method? So basically, it's a method that makes you valuable to people that have a problem. And it's a 6-step process where you either get a job at your dream company or start your own thing. And in the worst case, you will build a portfolio demonstrating the value that you can add to anyone you work with in the future. And so it's a real sort of zero downside, tons of upside. And so we notice there's always this sort of fight in the mindset of people where it's like, well, I need to get a job, but I need to have experience to get the job. And so there's this kind of like catch-22 situation going on, which is kind of ridiculous. So this is something that you can find on our website. It's under Learners and Build Your Own Apprenticeship. And if you click any of these, you'll find more detailed instructions. Dream teaming is, looking out and finding people or teams or companies or creators who are inspiring to you and that you want to work with. You have to identify problems that they have, and you have to write down a bunch of problems and just brainstorm things that you see. Maybe there's a broken part on the website, or their YouTube content is missing something, and you could add that piece of something that would make it easier for everyone to navigate the content with. Or you see a community center and you're like, well, your posters are terrible. Of course, no one's ever going to read what you do because, the graphic design is boring. Or there's just a local problem. Like, I don't know, we have too much trash around our local area. So noticing problems. And then you want to be able to build those solutions somewhere. So probably in a learning center or, your school, and build a solution. So we have some step-by-steps on like actually how to turn your ideas into reality. And then you want to document that solution. You want to write down how you went about solving it, and then send it to a decision maker at that company, at that community center, in the local government, whatever it is. Just share it with a decision maker. And then like last step, you're going to get accepted or rejected. And if you get accepted, amazing. This is just such a massive boost to young people's egos and confidence and everything in the right way. And if you get rejected, it's fine. You learn about rejection, and then you have a portfolio piece, which is on your portfolio about a real thing that you did. So there's a real zero downside and huge upside if you get this right. And yeah, the rest of the page is all about like how to turn your ideas to reality and a step-by-step process for that, as well as just other resources to help you navigate your learning ecosystem. And so that is, I'll give you a quick example of how this might work in Arc. So let's say I want to become a dentist and I actually just want to create a project. So let's go to my portfolio a second. Basically explain a project that I would like to do to Arc so that it can help me scaffold it. So I want to create a poster of dental anatomy using Photoshop, and click continue. And this is a graphic design project, and I'm not quite sure what it needs to be in the final deliverable. So I'm going to hit this magic button, and this is going to help me sort of think through all the different criteria. It needs to have high resolution images. I need to learn about layer management and anatomical accuracy. That's quite helpful. And Arc is going to generate the to-dos of this project so that I have a scaffold of this thing that I want to create. And I can get a learning coach or a teacher to help me with each step, and we can track each to-do in that project. Great. And so I've generated the to-dos for this dental anatomy poster. I need to research and gather high-resolution images about dental anatomy. Amazing. Here's some extra help if I need it. Look for reputable sources, such as medical journals. Great. I need to create a new Photoshop document. Okay, amazing. And at the end, I need to save the final design, organize and archive all the project files. I need to review the anatomical accuracy. And it's also gone and generated the first intro section of my portfolio piece. So it's written in the past tense saying, I created a detailed poster using Photoshop. So this project, I can move through the various stages of saying like in review, and then my learning coach can notice that this is in review, and I can click next, and this will go onto my actual personal profile in the future. I can preview what that'll look like to a reader, but I just want to go back to my profile. And voila, something I can share with my employers going forwards. So this is kind of 3 different things that we'll be doing in the classroom using AI. And just to ground this all out, that's all very like cool, and we can do this amazing thing with AI, but like where is this going to happen, and what's going to be different about the classroom? How do we fit this in amongst all the amazing other things that we're doing? So firstly, I want to note that the where might look very different in the future. So this is something we take very seriously at City as a School, and we've been trying to create a playbook for turning all of this disused real estate liabilities of offices and various companies. Here in Bristol, in the UK, there was a 4-story Marks and Spencer's in the town centre, which was just empty, and they have a 50-year lease on. And learning centres can be popped up to, offset the real estate liabilities of these companies. We had some awesome architects come in and do some great renders for this, where this group, Streams Co-Learning, we're trying to build a network of these spaces in Bristol, looking at 240 meters squared of underused commercial space. Here's a quick glimpse of that location. Don't need much. Get creative if you need to. And we did give ourselves permission to be creative. We really hope that these thriving learning communities have very dynamic spaces. And we have this like breathable wall in the middle, which actually changes the shape of the classroom, depending on the needs. This is sort of a flexiglass type setup. And various projectors and breakout rooms and meeting rooms and such. So what are we doing in the day is, I believe many of you already are quite aligned on this. I know that the Kunstkraftskolen method is very much so 50% mastery based and 50% project based. So there's already great alignment there. I just want to share a couple more insights which might be helpful here. In Justin Risch's book, Failure to Disrupt, you notice that new technology, which is designed to lead towards new goals, is often domesticated by the current goals and practices of the old culture and the incentives and the rewards around maximizing grades. So even though there's new technology, nothing's changing. So what's needed is a new culture, but what is that new culture of learning? And we know that at the core of this new culture is learning power. There's this ability to coach for metacognition, the ability to coach for agency at the center of it. But without any waffle, without any high theory, we want to get to the concrete things that adults can do in a space. And I think that the most atomic unit of culture is a habit. Because culture is a very vague term, and we want to have concrete habits that adults can learn to do. And I believe that if you teach adults to do this in learning spaces, then they will role model what high agency learning looks like, and then young people will be able to, in turn, become high agency themselves. Here's some examples of those habits, and there's going to become an article which I hope to publish, hopefully with John, about this, and many of these will be familiar. So asking people about what inspires them, what objects, people, places, and why they're inspired by that. Building webs of learning relationships around young people. So when they need help, say, oh, I know a mentor from here. Oh yeah, great, there's a coach over there. Oh, there's an expert on this over there. Actually, no, there's a teacher and a session going on in this learning center over there. There's other friends or learners who share their interests that do that. Remove blockers from their work and say, what do you need to get you to where you're going? And if they don't know where they're going, then say, set goals with them, be their accountability, seek high quality information sources. This one's really common. I see this with high agency kids, is that they run or help run events, clubs, meetups, and classes. So, and one final one I think is super important, explaining systems with people, creating or drawing mental models with friends. It's cracking out a white piece of paper, drawing a mind map of someone. These are all kinds of very atomic things that we can do in service of high agency learning. The structure in the day could be anything, but I was trying to zoom in on what the minimum event structure is to establish this at any location. So something that comes quite naturally to folks who work in tech and innovation spaces is sprint and demo culture. This idea that we set our goals, we run at them, and then we demo what we did at the end of the day or the end of the week in kind of a retrospective or a reflective moment. And so like we tried to figure out what the minimum requirement was for sprint a demo culture at any location. And we just came up with this format called open house format. We've got a playbook on it, but essentially like at 9 to 10 p.m., everyone rolls in, they set their goals, they plan their day and they plan their week. With young people, we were doing this with university students and that kind of age. I think the youngest in our group was about 19. So this will have to change and be more hand-holdy for, 16, 14. So set your goals with a coach, do that, plan the day and week, do all your sessions. Maybe you're drawing down from various classes on the catalog of stuff from City as a School, or you're joining other learners in the virtual campus online. This is something that like 24/7 open online campuses is a thing which we've rolled out before. Another environment for learning that can be happening in that middle section. And basically brainstorming, working on stuff like deep work, not deep work, running to a mentor session, coming back, whatever is necessary, doing mandatory work if there's national curriculum to do or not. And then at the end of the day, doing demos and feedback. So just having a space where everyone kind of show and tell basically and get feedback from each other if they want afterwards, saying like, well, have you thought about this? Could you improve that? And at the end of the day, just leaving this sort of spillover time for people to work on stuff and connect as friends and before being picked up by their parents or heading home. And so we've been running those all over the world in 6 countries now, and it's been really good fun. We found that teachers are coming alongside their students, defining their learning goals. We find that something like Kunskapsskolan is amazing for being able to import this back into the old system where there needs to be structured content alongside the project time. We often work with homeschoolers and disengaged students who are just not in the system. This is a really important feature for us. The AI co-pilots are basically coming to deliver just-in-time support and helping unblock learners where there isn't like a high adult to student ratio, or if there's just something they want to learn on their own pace. And then the where is happening in these co-working, co-learning spaces with adults trained in the habits of high agency learning. So that's what I think this looks like more concretely. I hope this has been insightful. This has been many years of work, and it's all coming and coalescing now into something which we believe is repeatable and scalable. And so I'd love to speak with any of you at this conference about what this might look like to bring some of these insights into your learning environment. It's definitely been something which has been at the fringe of innovation, but I believe your culture of learning that you already have at your schools, if it's aligned with Kunskapsskolan and those kinds of methodologies, this is no new information to you. You guys are already on this, but I would be excited to explore this with you guys further. So thank you for having me. John, thank you for inviting me to this talk, and I hope that you're all having a great time at this conference, and let's prepare the next generation for a world of rapid change. Thank you for listening.